Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. How do we start the show? Well, folks, guess what? I see here. Michael Rudnin says fast food workers are on strike today across the country. They are on strike across the country. Well, folks, you know what? That is a good thing. Fight for $15 right now. That is a good thing. He also said, meantime, sign and share. So, folks, if you are not currently in our feed, please go ahead and go to our feed, the main feed for politicsdoneright.com, which is at facebook.com/politicsdoneright, so that you can go ahead and sign that petition. How far gone do you have to be to try to kidnap a politician? The pro-Trump, this is from Rudnin. He always gives us a little starter. And I think for somebody who does as much research as our brother here, it's worth reading some of what he's putting out there for all of us to see. But it's a good one. The pro-Trump mob that stormed the U.S. Capitol last week aimed to capture and assassinate elected officials, federal prosecutors said in court documents. Strong evidence, including Chancellor's own words and actions at the Capitol, supports that the intent of the Capitol rioters was to capture and assassinate elected officials. I'm not going to read any more of it because you can go ahead and read that, folks, but that is what we're talking about. And we're going to hear one of our politicians point out an inconvenient truth about what's going on in here. So anyhow, let's talk about what the program is going to be about today. And let me go ahead and put that up on the screen. Oh, it's already on the screen. The program about today is Congressman to GOP. Stop lying. Confronting some truth about racism and more. Jim Clyburn to Republicans. Tell the truth. Stop lying to the American people. Profiling. I want to talk a little bit about that. What I'm going to do. I think I'm going to start with Clyburn. Clyburn has two short pieces. And what I want to do with Clyburn is show what he had to say about some issues. And then I'll tell my little piece, and then we'll come back in again. So let's go ahead and listen to Brother Clyburn, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Why would you have to beg people to tell the truth? I don't understand that. Yeah. My Republican colleagues have a responsibility to this country's stability to tell the truth. Stop lying about this election. They know full well this election was not stolen. They know full well that this was one of their own was in charge, and he has said it was the most secure election in the history of the country. And I feel that, having been subjected to bad elections in the past, this was not one of them. And so I think that they are incumbent from their duties, and from their offices they hold, to use their soapbox to tell people the truth and stop this lying. I don't know what the benefit is. This is Martin Luther King Jr. weekend's birthday. This is the weekend that we celebrate his birthday. And Martin Luther King Jr. told us in his letter from the Birmingham City Jail that he was coming to the conclusion that the people of ill will in our society make a much better use of time than the people of goodwill. And it's time for the people of goodwill to stop being complicit, stop being silent. Silence gives consent. When you be silent about stuff like this, you are consenting. And King concluded his thought on that letter, in that letter, saying that we are going to be made to repent, not just for the vitriolic words and deeds of bad people, but for the appalling silence of good people. I plead to the good people in the Republican Party, to the good people in this country, break your silence. Don't let this country come apart based upon a lie.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to don't let this country come apart because of a lie. So the big lie is, of course, that somehow the election was a fraud. We all know the election was not a fraud, but one of the things that we do is we refuse to tell ourselves the truth about what's happening in this country. And I tell you what, Clyburn in that same interview made some very important statements. I want to play that for you as well, and then we'll take it on the other side.
I think that we have some sympathizers in the Congress that probably ought not be there. There are two people who just got elected who identify with this QAnon group. Now, we know that's a hate group. And if they are there to represent their interests, then we need to be concerned about them. And I think that the law enforcement people need to pay close attention to them as well. I worked in state government before I came to Washington. Before that, I was in the governor's staff here in South Carolina back in the early 70s. And I'll tell you something. We knew as much, if not more, about the Ku Klux Klan as they did about themselves, because we put in place mechanisms in order to make sure that we stayed on top of them and we knew exactly what they were thinking about doing before they ever decided to act upon it. That same thing can be done today. We have got to get serious about the fact that we in this country have a problem with domestic terrorism. Domestic terrorism. We have never made that admission. It is time for us to come down off our high horse and admit that there is domestic terrorism in this country, and there's a way to get to the bottom of it. And they know, I know it, I've been a part of it at the state level, and a lot of them are much smarter than I am. They can get to the bottom of this at the national level.
Yeah, it is amazing. Now, let me welcome a few people that are currently here. Para ver. Welcome aboard, Michael Rudnin. Welcome aboard. AVQ, Bridge MCP, Norman Reynolds, Eric Hayes. Let's see, Richie Smith. Welcome aboard. Daniel Ledoux, Paul Fleming. Welcome aboard. Okay, before I go any further, I think I want to address something that Ledoux just said, because I think it's actually pretty important. Ledoux just said, he said, wow, laughing out loudly, why so worried about QAnon, Clyburn? Because QAnon is real. QAnon is the psychological malpractice of the Republican Party, paid for by, we know, different entities. But the idea is you make people so... Let me tell you something. In our family, right, I just realized that a goddaughter of mine is a QAnon fanatic. From the vaccines to the mask to the Trump adoration, all of that she's into. I just learned that. Let me tell you something. It is important that we understand what's going on here, because it is real. What you see happening with QAnon and what you see, the way it's set up, right? And let me tell you my theory right now on what Clyburn is talking about. Clyburn is trying to show that in America right now we have a domestic terrorism issue. It is true, and it is mostly performed by the white supremacists. But here's the kicker: they are a little bit more sophisticated than that. They have a few people that they get trapped into this QAnon alternate state of reality. And they have all those people march and do the crazy things. Inside of you're going to see this coming out. Inside of the Capitol, you had people with walkie-talkies and you had people doing all these things, giving directions, keeping their face out of the limelight, but giving directions to the QAnon crazies. So in other words, they have these QAnon crazies doing all the dirty work for them as everybody else go ahead about their business. So I think people, at first, I'll be frank, I was laughing at QAnon. It's like, who the hell's going to believe that kind of stuff? Who going to believe about eating babies? Who going to believe about these crazy things that? And then I realized that there's a place for everybody. There is a place for everybody. And you know what? There are some people who believe that crap as well. And, Lee Grant, no, I guess QAnon is unpermitted belief. No, sir. Lee Grant, you can go and believe as much into QAnon as you want to believe. I really don't care. The part that I care about is if QAnon starts to commit murder, if QAnon starts killing people. And what we saw is QAnon, based on what they believe in, they feel they have reason to kill people, because these people in their mythology, these people are killing kids. These people are pedophiles. That is what this movement is trying to tell these people. So a few days ago when we did the program, I said, you know what? Most people that you saw out there marching, honestly, they're not bad people. And I got a whole lot of flack, including some personal emails. Stop coddling those people, like Berto. Stop coddling those people. They are evil. To which I answered to my friends, I said, look, they're not evil. They are simply misinformed. They are gullible. There's a difference. They are gullible. So it is important for us to, and just calling them evil again isn't the thing that's going to get us to, get us any kind of solution. So that's not the issue. But let me tell you what happened at the Capitol. And this I put in the message that I wanted to say at the Capitol. A lot of people look at what's going on at the Capitol and they think, oh, these people were great to get in. You know what the Capitol proved once again? The Capitol proved once again that profiling doesn't work, right? Because when BLM was going to be out there marching, they were prepared for BLM with the National Guard, and they were prepared with BLM with all these other facets of the military establishment. They were ready for them. But these QAnon people and these Trump insurrectionists, you know what they look like, right? They're not the people that we perceive as the ones that are going to blow stuff up or break things and irrationally go destroy things. That is the figment of one's imagination, right? That is what many were taught to believe, that the people that do harm and do damage have a tendency to look a bit more like me, a little bit more like como un chicano, como un latino que tiene la raza del indio, del indígena. That's what they want you to believe. That all of us don't have the propensity to do wrong, right? So they put that propensity to do wrong on a few people. And then the rest of the population is fooled into believing that you don't expect certain things out of certain people, as opposed to looking at people as humans, all capable of doing good things and bad things based on just being humans. So the attack on the Capitol, the seditious act on the Capitol, the insurrection on the Capitol is a direct response to what again? Profiling, racial profiling. And it proved how insidiously silly racial profiling is. Because, like I think I said on a previous program, people who really understand humanity, they say, okay, we know humans have this failure. So if we want to go rip off stores, we go in pairs. Black guy, white guy. The black guy goes in the store, he knows he's going to be followed all around, and the white guy just clean him up. Most of the shoplifting in this country, as opposed to what people may believe, isn't done by you know what. And that is, again, why racial profiling is so wrong. And what I'm saying, folks, a lot of the ills in this country right now is, believe it or not, based on our false belief of what different people would do. So I mean, it behooves us, right, to start looking at society for what it is, looking at humanity for what it is, looking at us as all being the same based on socioeconomic issues. And if we do that, we can really have a better America. Now, I have a friend that called me up. Well, let me go ahead and play that. Let's see, what time is it? 3:17. Yeah, let me go ahead and play that video. I tell you what, which one I'll do first? I'll do the one with Anand Bhatt first, Dr. Bhatt. Dr. Bhatt kind of impressed me with a story about Reconstruction that I wasn't quite aware of. And I think this is the issue. I always tell people that what we have to do as a society is give everybody the opportunity to make a mistake. But not only that, we also have to remember that if we respond to racism like everybody else, we have allowed the plutocracy to win, because racism has been a tool used to keep us apart so that a very minor few can stay in power, can control us all. I want you to listen to Anand Bhatt, and then we'll take it on the other side. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. Today, I am once again with Dr. Anand Bhatt.
I read a book before I came down here called Origins of the New South,
Right.
By C. Van Woodward. He wrote a book also called, what is it called? The Strange Career of Jim Crow. It actually, Martin Luther King quoted it at his speech in Selma.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very interesting. The story of segregation and why segregation happened is actually more complicated than people want to admit. And what happened was segregation and Jim Crow didn't happen immediately after the Civil War. It actually happened about 30 years later. It happened actually around 1900, because what happened was the two-party system, the Republicans were the National Party and the Northern Party, and they were occupying the South. And what happened is the South, after slavery, was dirt poor, had no money, had nothing to tax, because they actually taxed the slaves. And now there was no slavery, there was no money to tax. The amount of money, and the federal government didn't support schools. So the poorest state in the North was Kansas, and it was like $1,300 per year was the annual income in 1900. The average Southern state was like $350 per capita. Wow. So you're talking about Latin. I mean, I want to know, I would like to know in 1900, was Louisiana as poor as Latin America? It might have been. It might have been. I'm not convinced people went to school in Louisiana until the 30s or 40s.
Right.
So anyway, what happened was the populist movement, and this is what Thomas Frank is now writing a lot more about in his new book. But what happened was, at a certain point, the poor whites were going third party. They were going for the Populist Party or the Farmers Party or Greenback Party. They had a bunch of parties, but they were non-Democrat. They were upset. They wouldn't go Republican because of the Civil War, but they were non-Democrat, and they were independents. And the rich former slave owners owned the Democratic Party, who were allied with Wall Street in New York. So the Southern, if you notice, between the Civil War in 1920, every single presidential candidate was from New York or Ohio, because those were the only two swing states, because New York City was still Democratic. Even during the Civil War era, New York City supported slavery. That's what people don't realize. New York City supported slavery, and they were allied with the Southern Democrats, and they used to provide the money. So you have a very Latin America situation where you have the elite rich are more connected to New York City and big finance than they are with their local people, which is how any of Latin America or Africa or Asia is. They're more tied in with London or Madrid or Paris than they are with their own people. So the South, so the farmers' movement began to get more and more radical in the South. And they realized as long as what was happening is the blacks were still Republican. And now because they were still Republican, they were kind of swing between sometimes Democrats, sometimes Republican, but they were still Republican. Then the Populist Party got the idea, specifically in Georgia. There was a guy named Tom Watson, and he's a very interesting person. And he gave a famous speech that said, we must reach out to the poor black farmers as poor white farmers. And racism is used by the rich whites to separate us and rob us separately. This is said by Tom Watson in like 1892.
Wow, we preach that all the time. That's
yes,
where the separation comes. Yeah.
Yes. And what happened is the populists fused with the Black Republicans, creating something called the Fusion Party. And in North Carolina, they won the governorship and the legislature. The Democrats went on a lynching campaign, a white supremacy campaign, and then they wrote in 1900, not in 1870, not in 1880, not in 1890, in 1900, after the United States took Puerto Rico, okay? And once the North now had non-white people they didn't want to vote, okay? Then they said, well, we don't want these minorities to vote. And they passed all these Jim Crow constitutions. But it was two ways. They didn't want blacks to vote, so they passed laws for that. But they didn't want the poor whites to vote either, so they made the poll tax. Actually, Texas didn't even have the ban on blacks voting. It was just the poll tax. Texas actually, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 actually did not apply to Texas. Texas was added to the Voting Rights Act because of Spanish language discrimination, not because they did not ban vote by race in Texas. It was just the poll tax. And the poll tax, so the voter rolls in Georgia went from like 100,000 to 10,000, which meant it wasn't just blacks being disenfranchised. It was whites as well. But segregation.
It was the right kind of whites, and that's what I try to tell people all of the times. Yes.
And that is, and this is the root of, this is why Jim Crow happened. It actually happened for class reasons. It came because when the solution has been the same since 1892, it's the same solution. Poor whites and poor blacks have to unite. What Tom Watson said then is still true today. And the one time it got close, the elites flipped out. And that's how Jim Crow happened.
And with that, that is our second piece. Thank you very much, Dr. Bat, for that little historical lesson, which I think many probably need to know, because once they know that, more of us can get together and win.
Yes. I mean, read Tom Frank's new book. He actually has gone into the whole thing.
When did it start? When did that book come out?
Thomas Frank, What's the Matter with Kansas?
I saw that. That's old.
That's old. His new book is called The People Know.
When did he release that one?
This year.
This year, okay.
And he talks about it because he was very upset. People keep saying populist means racist. And he says in America, that's 100% not true. And then he actually went into the history of it. And he says, actually, the populists at that time frame were probably the least racist people in America.
Thank you so kindly for having been here on Politics Done Right. As usual, you young man always have a word of wisdom. Thank you so kindly for being here, brother.
Great to be here.
Okay, and you know, with that what Anand just talked about, you know, it gives a hell of a lot more credence to what we say constantly, to what we say over and over and over again. Racism is a tool, and that tool is used to make people, to put it bluntly, stupid. What do I mean by that? If we are fighting each other, I keep telling this, and I will repeat this on every show, and I will continue to say these things with the expectation, with the begging that people will be listening to the words that I'm saying here. It is a tool. It is a tool. It is a tool. And, you know, we can have all kinds of, this person says this, because the bottom line of it is a tool of the elite. And until we realize that, those people that were rushing the Capitol was saying that these Democrats are, you know, taking their country away and doing the things that they're doing, and the policies that these Democrats want to pass for all those people that came from West Virginia and Ohio and the rural areas of Michigan and Minnesota and all these other places. Their lives are going to be better if they had overthrown the government. And somehow Donald Trump was able to stay in power. At that point, Donald Trump would have owed them nothing. Because, you know, Donald Trump, he's transactional. Get me here and bye-bye. That is what we are up against, people. And that is why everybody that's listening to The Voice here, I don't care who you are, black, white, blue, Canadian, whatever you are, let's not fall into that trap. Let's not only not fall into that trap, but let's try to not talk to the choir. Let's try to, the next person that calls you a name, if you're a person of color and somebody used some negative attribute on you, as opposed to turning around and slapping back or hitting them back, smile. I know it's hard. Smile. And then see if you can get into a conversation. Ask them why they feel that way. And ask them to explain what it is that you have done, others have done that make them, kind of feel that way. Just let them talk. Don't say it, just let them talk. Give them a chance to just say the things. And give them that space to say the things. I've done that so many times, it hurts. I've done that so many, even here on air when people call and say certain things. And why am I saying this? Because the mind gets into several states. And when it's in the irrational state, you can't get to it at all. But when that person is talking to you and you're not going back at them, the amount of stuff that gets out there actually works. And I know a lot of people say you're naive. These people are wired that way, and there's a certain truth to a certain part of wiring, right? But those same people, they care about their kids. They care about others. Some maybe not as much as you do. Some maybe a little bit more. So it drives me when I am seeing all the money that is spent to protect the Capitol. I'm looking at it at TV right now. I'm looking at all those people that rushed that Capitol, some of them are going to die from COVID. I'm watching those people. You don't do that kind of stuff if you don't believe, if you're not convinced that what you're doing is right. You don't do that kind of stuff. These people, there's a problem. And the fact that you're here and you're listening to me and you're hearing these things, we are the solution. We're the solution. Some people say, just blow them up and lock them up. For some of them, we got to do that. For some of them, including, if you look at the different levels of conservatives we have in our, not conservatives, but conservatives and right-wingers we have in our thread here. There are some people that have no desire other than looking tunnel vision, even if it'll kill them, even if it'll hurt them. They just want to believe what they want to believe. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about those people who legitimately believe the things that have been placed in their minds. Those are the people that we can get to. Now, some of them here are like, for everything you say, they have a pushback. Others would say, well, I don't know, but I'm a conservative. I don't care about that. That's fine. If you're conservative, all of that is good stuff. All of that's fine. But I want you to see how realization occurs. I want to play you another video. It's a friend of mine, and she made a realization of her own prejudices. And I think it's important for you to see. But since we're already at the halfway mark, I just want to ask you that if you're on YouTube, please join our posse. Click on that join button and become a part of our posse. Or if you are so kind to do so, give us a super chat to keep us doing what we're doing. If you're not on YouTube and you can't hit that join button, I can get you to that join button. You can go ahead and click politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. And if you do that, you'll get to the PDR posse named by the one and only Brige MCP, one of our devoted listeners, supporters. I love you, Brige. Thank you for all you do for Politics Done Right as well. You can also support us via our Patreon. Patreon is at politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon is spelled Patreon. Patreon. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. You can support us as well via PayPal. All of us who do this kind of work, we do PayPal. So that is politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Folks, is there anything else that I'm missing? Oh, my book. Please get It's Worth It. How to talk to your right-wing family, relatives, friends, and neighbors. How do you get that? You can get it directly on Amazon, either the e-copy or get it right out, the book. And that is how you get it. I shipped a few of them yesterday, hard copy with autograph as well as with my bumper sticker and some other stuff in there. But again, if you want to get it at Amazon, the only thing you don't get at Amazon is you don't get a bumper sticker and you don't get the signature. It says, "Hey, that's me." But again, you can get it at Amazon, and you can get any one of my books at Amazon, either as this one here, As I See It, the one that talks economics and how the rich has really screwed us and used the right wing to do so. And my weight loss book is there as well. So please support us. Our store is at politicsdoneright.com/store. You can get our t-shirts or hoodies, all of that. If you're on YouTube, you can get our t-shirts, hoodies, and all of that as well. Okay, let's get back to the program. Like I said, race is something that we spend too much money on. We could have spent a hell of a lot of money on things that are productive. And it's all because we have to keep the lower people divided so that a very minute few can get ahead. The 0.1%, then you have the 1% that does very, very well, the 2% that does super well, and then you have the 10% that I call the guardians of the gate. The ones who make sure that things are, that there are enough of those people, there's enough of those people so that they guard everything for everybody else. And they make sure to keep the narrative racist, keep the division by race, division by, all these different divisions that we try to have among people. Not real divisions, divisions created to make sure that a few stay in power. But check this out, interview with a friend of mine when she realized a few of her prejudices. Check this out and we'll take it on the other side. A few days ago, a friend of mine sent me a text. Their church was starting to create sort of a social justice program, and she wanted to have a chat on, and she wanted to have an honest chat on racial issues, etc. So she gave me, we arranged a Zoom call because, again, it's, the times that we're in. And we decided to have an honest chat. And there's some segments in there that I thought we could broadcast that would add some positivity to what's going on right now. And I asked her for permission to take a few clips out of the conversation that we had and bring it on to you. So I want you guys to listen to this honest conversation, and then let's take it on the other side.
It came to me through some of these studies we're doing, and I thought, and they'd talk about this, and my friends would say, no, yeah, I know. And everybody was acting so like, I'm so innocent of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept thinking about it on my own and meditating and praying about it. It is not possible that I grew up white in the South and not have any racism in here.
Right.
It's just not possible.
It's not possible. And
so I kept looking and I couldn't find it. And I couldn't find it.
Right.
And I finally did.
Right. And
you want to know what it was?
What it was?
Want to know?
I really want to know.
It's neighborhoods. I love living in a diverse community because I enjoy a diversity of people from everywhere, rich and poor and all this kind of stuff. I lived that way in Brazil. I enjoy being in that kind of a city here, although Kingwood's not that. But you know where I would be uncomfortable?
Where?
If people of color became the majority in that neighborhood and I were the minority. Now, why is that? I'm still uncovering why is that, but it has something to do with that power, right?
It has something to do with the power and something else too, right? How the news media, how the TV has programmed you to believe that being in an area that is majority, minority, what it actually means. Exactly. So, and what do you think about that? What are you doing about that?
What am I doing about it?
Yeah, about those feelings.
I'm processing them, and I'm saying, well, why do I feel that way? I keep asking the why question when I'm trying to understand myself. Why do I feel that way? Well, because I found two. I found One, because what you say that, property values go down, this, all that.
Right.
But the other one is,
I mean, the thing about it is, doesn't it have something to do with how you grew up?
oh, well, yeah, it has to do with what I grew up, but I don't feel like I should be chained to the way I grew up.
Right.
I am perfectly capable of breaking those chains, but I have to understand what they are
Right.
before I can do it. So that's part of it. That's part of it. Oh, I know what it was I was going to say. It's because I'm afraid I would not be accepted in that community, in a minority people of color community. I am afraid they might not accept me.
Do you think a lot of your peers feel that way?
I think they probably do. And also from little bits of things people have said, I think they also wonder, well, we've treated the blacks so badly for so many years. If they got power or they had control of things that were happening, would they go for revenge? I think some people actually think of it that way.
And you know what? I've said that before, but you saying it without me even bringing that up gives that even more credence.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's right. But Egberto, it took me weeks of introspection to dig that stuff out. It's hard. It's hard work.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know, but I don't want to be that way.
No. It's not about, something. That testimony there
Yeah.
is more powerful in bringing those people we spoke about elsewhere that think racially they don't have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
When I've known you for years and you've always been trying to make things better and whatever, and you could come out here and tell me that story, and then we're talking about you.
Yeah, me.
When I'm talking about this sort of issue, and I did this in my book, the first thing I did is I showed my own weaknesses. Okay? So when I'm telling my story, I tell the story about how I transitioned from being a homophobe on a flight to China and came back a gay rights activist. Okay? And it showed that I had an illness
Well,
because
that's part of the digging out the truth, right?
that is digging out the truth. You know what? That kind when you talk like that, you give others permission
to do
to
it.
examine themselves, because no longer do they feel like they're alone with those thoughts.
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Well, that's probably right.
You
I feel inadequate to this. I want to do it and I feel inadequate,
no, that's not it. That's not inadequate. That is power. That is how change. You remember what I told you about earlier? I said people need to stop making it a project and that's why I like to talk and just talk about it.
Yeah.
That is what I'm talking about. The only way we get change is for people to do two things: be able to be honest with their thoughts, honest with the way they think about things. And when it comes to racism, racial issues, or prejudices, you have to be able to articulate them without the fear of being completely judged, excommunicated, or whatever, because that is how you feel, right? What I always tell people is simple. We all grow up with certain types of prejudices, whether that's racism, homophobia, etc. When you learn what your weaknesses are, the person who's doing something about it deserves the encouragement and the kudos. The person that decides that they can live with their own prejudices and have no desire for change, those are the ones that deserve the wrath of us all. But for everybody, we are humans, all trying to change, all trying to adapt. If we work towards that, folks that continue to try to divide on issues that should not allow division can actually get somewhere, and we can actually remove prejudices from one of the problems that we need to solve, because after all, they really don't make much sense when it comes to humanity. They just really don't. Let me say this. That was an easy conversation, right? Um, that was a private conversation, and after I heard the way she said certain things and whatever, I thought letting other people hear a private conversation of this sort would give would give some the permission to feel okay to reveal these things with people they trust, so that they can with themselves resolve these issues and then come out and just be a virus of goodness, right? A virus that goes out there, and when you're with your other racist white friends, you can say no. You can actually have that level of communication after, because you're empowered. Notice I told her you've got power by being able to be introspective and put that out. You've got power. So it was a personal conversation, and then as we went on, I said, "Wow, there are 3 minutes in there that I think would be positive in the aggregate. Would you allow me to put that out?" And then she stopped for a while and she said, "You really think it'll do good?" And I said, "Yeah." And then she said, "Okay, go do it." That comes from a level of mutual trust, that somebody say, "Okay, a conversation that should have been private all along, it's Zoom, so, and my Zoom is always on tape. It is about that." Okay, Lee Grant says, "I guess the left will still be maintaining racism for the time being." Lee, you and I need to have that kind of a private, personal talk. Because one of the things that she said earlier, in another part of the interview that I didn't put out, because again, like I said, I just told her that piece there is a piece of our private conversation that I think would do good. But here is what I am saying to you, Brother Lee. What she was saying is, most of the white people that she associates herself with, when she brings up the race issue, to them, it is, we don't have a race issue. We are just fine. And I even revealed to her a story of mine. I had this guy that another engineer, we worked together. And he was always trying to be, and this was back in the 80s, he wanted to show me how he believed that all of us are equal, all that good stuff, right? And one time I kind of I thought he was pushing that too much when he was talking to me. And I said, and I think I told some of you this story before. I said, "Look, you know when I want to know if all that you're talking about is real?" And this blue-eyed blonde daughters, right? I said, when your blue-eyed blonde daughter comes home with like somebody who looks like me, or somebody who looks like my brother-in-law or something like that, meaning a Mexican dude, then I will then say that maybe, just maybe, you've really crossed the Rubicon like I have with gay issues. I was a homophobe, man. I come from Panama, Latino, Caribbean, black. We have that sort of a thing. Anyhow, he smirked. Then he said, "One of my daughters dating a black guy and the other daughter is dating a Mexican guy." And I'm like, "Sir, I stand corrected. Forgive me, sir. Forgive me, sir." That is why we don't, what did I talk about earlier? Profile. That is why we don't profile. And I learned my own lesson, right? Because those are the kinds of real life experiences that teaches me, you don't judge, even though I am of the aggrieved class, right? I get to carry that license to be aggrieved. And that's what pisses off a lot of white people, right? why can't I do that? Well, you're not the aggrieved, you know? You and I go into the store, you get the service. I get the second class, you know. But you have to be very careful until we get all these things put together. And again, it's because we haven't put all this stuff together that we have what we had in DC. And the reason we haven't yet put it together is because the powers that be are intent. They are intent on white supremacy isn't about white people. White supremacy is the tool. White supremacy is the tool that make some white people feel superior to everything else and believe it has to be a white class to keep others down so that your masters, the plutocracy, can keep us all down. All you are, those white supremacists that went out to the Capitol, half of them are poor, half of them are sick, and I'm not only talking mentally sick, I'm talking about physically because of what the plutocracy has done with their health care, because of what the plutocracy has done to their education. They're in bad shape. But they're protecting because of that thing called white privilege, white supremacy. And it's not for them. They're in the same boat as most of us. Yeah, you go to the restaurant, you get better treatment. You know, you don't get profiled. But even not getting profiled screws you. Because you're still paying for what the people who didn't get profiled, the bad things they do, which is a lot worse and more than those who are profiled, because those who are profiled don't get a chance to do it. So that is how silly racism and all these isms are. That is how silly it is. And those of you that are listening to me, both whether you're on the right or on the left, and you know, being on the right doesn't mean racist, and being on the left doesn't mean that you're not racist. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I go to my progressive blogging consortium where we meet all the politicians, and all of them run to make sure that we write good things about them. And every year we meet over 3,000 bloggers, reporters, journalists. We meet in one place, and I tell you, some of the worst racism I have felt as a journalist, blogger, with this sort of a stuff, I met there. Right-wingers are always trying to show me that they're not racist, so I get better treatment from them generally when I go to their things. Left-wingers, oh, we're not racist, but we are. So I understand all the technicalities, and Brother Grant, who's a conservative, I want you to know I understand it. But I also want you to know that there are likely a lot of racial issues. I'm assuming you're white. There are a lot of racial issues that you yourself may have, not as a conservative, just as a person, based on your thinkology, that makes you, you know, to put it bluntly, just as racist as anybody else. And until you confront that, like my good friend, nothing changes. Nothing changes. Let me go through and salute all my brothers and sisters. I'm going to start from the top and then come down. So if I don't call your name by the time you see him again to the middle, just send me another note. Michael Rudnin, welcome aboard. Let's see, AVQ, British MCP, Norman Reynolds, Eric Hayes. See, I got a lot of conservatives in this room, man. British MCP, Richie Smith, Daniel Ledoux, Paul Fleming, Norman Reynolds, I think I called you. Julie Van Osdal, welcome aboard. Lee Grant, I think you're in Houston, right, Lee? You and I going to go ahead and get some coffee, brother. We got some scoring up to do, brother. So Lee Grant, as soon as this epidemic is over, if you're here in Houston, you can come to Kingwood and we're going to have ourselves a cup of coffee, brother. All right. Daniel Ledoux, welcome aboard. Roberto Luis, mi hermano de Panamá. Julie Henderson. Let's see. And then I'm going to go back and see some of the messages, but I just want to salute people. Julie Henderson, welcome aboard. Daniel Lado, Norman Reynolds, I got you. I got you. Julie Van Dastel, I got Ken Mack, welcome aboard. See, who else is here? Blair Hafley, welcome aboard. Just me. Welcome aboard, Julie Henderson. Welcome aboard. Let's see. I got Just Me, who's been in a good conversation. Let's see what else we got here. I'm scrolling down. I'm almost there. I'm in the middle there. Julie Henderson, I think I got. Jacoby G. ¿Cómo estás, mi hermano? ¿Cómo estás? The Duck. I love the name. The Duck That Quacks. And D. Rabbit White. What is D. Rabbit White? Come on, you got to explain some stuff like that to me. By the way, I listened to the White Pride video that you sent me, Bridge MCP. The guy was on point. He was on point. Let's see. Jacoby G, I think I got you. Eric Hayes, I got you. Coming down. Roberto Lewis, I got you. And any new person? Come on, folks. If you're new, just put yourself at the bottom of the list or just put yourself in there and I will call you out. Okay. Eric Hayes says you can still drink coffee outside and get some vitamin D from the sun too. Yeah, man. And guess what else, man? I think I need a little bit more sun than you, man, because sun takes a little bit more time to penetrate me to give me the vitamin D. Maybe that's why I'm so damn tired lately. Need some vitamin D. Does vitamin D deficiency make you? I don't know. Anyhow. All right, let me see what some of you are saying. Yeah, Eric, so thank you for being here, Eric Hayes. Eric Hayes is one of our brother conservatives here. Good guy, very good guy, I can tell you that. Just like Lee Grant's, good guy. You have good conservatives around, man. Okay, the Duck That Quack says, no generalization is 100% accurate, except Trumpolini is a born creature. The Duck That Quacks, be nice. Be nice. Bridge MCP says, being gay, I was always told it was okay, just that I was going to hell. Let me tell you something. If you believe in hell, that's not a reason to go to hell. Okay? So I don't think so at all. All right. Yes, D. Hence why blacks have a hard time with COVID. Yeah, we need the D, man. Got to take those supplements. The melanin blocks out a lot of those rays. It's a double-edged sword. You get less skin cancer, but you get less vitamin D. Hey, I think Mother Nature says, okay, if you're near the equator, this is what you got to do. So it's Brian Miner, growing up in an all-white region, racism is spoken and children do not know it. So it is taught unknowingly. Brian, thank you. You hit the nail on the head. Rudnan says there was a study indicating vitamin D deficiency makes COVID cases worse. Check with your doctor. Ask them for a vitamin panel. Couldn't hurt. Thank you for that information. So all my black listeners, Michael Rudnin found some good information. Check it out. Check out the link that he has there. Okay, let's see. Paul says, here's the thing that I find funny. My parents and grandparents never had a problem with what race of women I've dated. Concretely, I've been told that I would be hung if I was seen with their daughter. I was explaining that to the lady that I interviewed when she said that one of the things she was concerned about was two things: what acceptance by the minority community, or whether they would treat her the way she know white people had treated black folk. And it's amazing that you just said that. What I told her is, go to a black church and see the treatment that you get. Conversely, with a black person going into a white church, and I'm not talking about all white church. Of course, you can't generalize, right? But when white people go into black spaces, there is a certain mechanism that occurs, and you see there's a cocoon that goes around them to make sure to protect them, first of all, and secondly, the feelings are always, in general. And this has been mostly with the older crowd. With the newer crowd now, they're just pissed off. I'm going to just say that. A lot of the younger people, they're pissed off that we've been so generous for having been treated so badly. So there's a different dynamics that's going on right now. And some of the work that I'm doing is to start to mitigate some of that dynamics to say, hey, we don't want to keep going back into a seesaw modal. We want to open the door for everybody on all sides. Let me see what else. Let me go back up and see. I saw some other good messages that I wanted. Well, all of them are good, but you know what I mean. Lee Grant, everyone has a tad of some sort of preconception, but knowing others or getting to know others, opening up, people are the same. Right. Bridge MCP, that's perfect. We all have our preconceptions. What you have to do is you have to give people the opportunity to let them out without feeling that they're. You remember yesterday we talked, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. We talked about cancel culture, and Norman castigated me for using cancel culture on the left side. But I want to remain using it since people understand what it is said. People need to understand that if I come and I talk to you, and I'm honest, you know I'm your friend, and I just say something that is stupid, something that is insensitive, tell me, Egberto, that was a stupid statement. That was insensitive, and that was based on complete idiocy. I would look at you and tell you, oops, I'm sorry. I'll try not to make that mistake again. And notice I didn't say I won't make the mistake again. I'll try not to make the mistake again. Why? That's that thing in the back of your head, man. That kind of a muscle memory in the brain. I read that people with O plus do better. Yeah, I've got O, so I mean, I hope that is okay as well. All right, let's see. Something about, I saw something. Great show, EW. Cuidado, hermano. Take care of yourself. Thank you, Jacoby G. Let's see. Michael Rudnin says, I read that already. Paul Fleming says, here's the thing. I saw that one. There's a good one here. Thank you so much. It's hard, from Norman Reynolds. Thanks so much. It is hard to see the glasses, your culture and upbringing. You're wearing when looking at the world around you. Looking in may not be the right way to look. Either someone else is your mirror, or you take chances and see the stuff like bugs that slap against the glasses. I love the way you express that. I love the way you express that, Norman. Norman also has an article that's going to be posted. I haven't read it yet, but if it comes from Norman, it gets posted. And any of you guys that want to write articles of expression or say something, please feel free to send them to me. And, I reserve the right to kind of make a few, if there is some grammar stuff or whatever that I have to change to put it on the website. But I want you guys to really know that this is your platform. And if you have something to say, I want you to know that you can come out on our platform and say whatever the hell you want to say, because it is yours. It is important to understand that. That is what I believe. Fleming says, when I married a black woman, my mother told me she never thought I would. The one that wanted me the most won or lost. That is funny. I know what you mean, man. I went to the University of Texas. When I went to the University of Texas, I was like a raisin in a big bowl of milks. So you see what was at that time, what was my only dating opportunity. So I know the feeling, Brother Fleming. Let's see. Let us discuss comparisons of the right, its non-democratic behaviors combined with the evangelical support and ISIS, especially considering the need of the National Guard for us to transfer power. By the way, we cannot say what we have always had, peaceful transfer of power. Norman Reynolds, you got that right. Okay, folks, we got to get out of here. Please remember, consider getting my book. I'm going to put that link in there again. It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. Here is the link. That is, you can get it at Amazon there, or if you want to get it at my store, where you get an autographed copy with a bumper sticker, you can go ahead and get it at my store. Please consider support by either becoming a member by clicking that join button on YouTube. That will help us out a lot. We do it cheap, because we want thousands of people. We're not there even close yet, but we need you. Please go to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal to provide support as well, or politicsdoneright.com/Patreon if you want to become a patron of ours. We have a lot of opportunities to help us continue to put this message out. I want to thank you guys so kindly. I know you have the opportunity, you have the options to go and listen or go anywhere. The fact that you're here with me, I am genuinely honored. Thank you so kindly for being here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right, I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.